currently snowed in. It is like 5 p.m., but I thought it might be fun to do a little bit of a reading vlog, just sort of check in with what is going on while I am stuck at home. I've already played The Sims for like a couple hours. If anybody wants a Sims update at some point, let me know. I want to do a really quick check-in. So I'm currently reading on my Kindle, which I got for Christmas. Oh, sorry. I'm currently reading Tress of the Emerald Sea, which is the first Brandon Sanderson book I've ever read. And I got it with my Christmas gift card. I'm currently reading that. I'm on chapter 20, so I think I'm like almost 30% through. And so far it's pretty good. It's kind of reminding me of The Princess Bride mixed with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Love The Princess Bride. Not a huge fan of Hitchhiker's Guide. I typically don't love books that are like trying really hard to be funny. Like when a book is marketed as, haha, this is such a hilarious, wacky, weird little book, usually I don't end up liking it that much. And this book has like a little taste of that, but it's not, I think it's just taking me a little bit getting used to the tone of the narrator, because it's very kind of like making fun of itself and like self-aware. And sometimes that bothers me. So far, it's okay. It's not bothering me too much. And I'm intrigued by the story. There are pirates, and I like pirates. There's that. I'm also currently reading Devotions by Mary Oliver, but this is sort of more like a slow-going thing. Yeah, so that's my update. I'm gonna sort of take you along with me, I guess, for the rest of the day. Not sure what I'm gonna do. I'll see you soon. I have finished Tress of the Emerald Sea, and I actually really wound up liking it. It sort of got off to a slow start. It took me a while, I think, to just get used to the voice of the narrator. I think I already mentioned this, but I struggle a lot with books that are like marketed as like funny or like, ooh, this is a funny book. That's not like a decision really, it's just that I tend to not enjoy books that are supposed to be funny. Tress of the Emerald Sea, I feel like, had a good balance between like jokes, like stuff that was very clearly like put in there for you to be like, oh haha, like they're being funny about that, and just like things that sort of happened to be funny. I do think it reminded me a little of The Princess Bride, which is funny because after the fact, I was reading the afterword and the acknowledgements and stuff. The author actually mentioned that he got the idea to write it after watching The Princess Bride and thinking about how it would be. I think he said that his wife was like, I want to see the story of The Princess Bride where Buttercup goes and saves Wesley and doesn't just assume that he's dead. And then that was when Brandon Sanderson decided to write this book. I didn't even know that, but my first impression was this is sort of like Princess Bride vibes. And I did like it. I think if I have to give it a star rating, I'd probably give it like 4 stars, maybe like 4.25, because I was really struggling through it. I can always tell I'm sort of struggling more with a book when I'm like checking to see how long I have till the next chapter. So I finished that, and I have decided to start rereading the Hunger Games series because it has actually been over 10 years since I read these books. This is my original copy of The Hunger Games. Like, on the sticker on the back, it says March 29th, 2011, which means that I probably got this for my birthday because my birthday is March 31st. I'm excited to reread these. I saw the movie for Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes with one of my work friends in November. I haven't actually read the book for that yet. I really want to read it, but I also want to reread the series because I feel like it would be a good excuse to do that. But yes, so I'm gonna keep you updated as I reread The Hunger Games. I'm hoping that it will hold up. I've already read 75 pages. And so far, a lot has happened. I don't have a ton of thoughts. I feel like something about these books that I remember the most is all of the love triangle stuff and how everybody was like, oh, Katniss and Peeta or Katniss and Gale. And I was always more of a Katniss and Peeta person. Okay, so Katniss and Peeta aren't really friends yet, but all she's talked about is how she's like, yeah, Gale is like my brother. I don't like him like that. Even though, like, it might seem like that, I do not like him like that. We do not have romantic feelings towards each other. Like, she literally explicitly says multiple times, that would never work. I do not want to be with Gale. And people still shipped them so hard. I'm sure there's gonna be more stuff that I haven't remembered from later in the book. I think the second book especially, perhaps. But she does not seem very interested in romance at all. We're gonna see how this goes. It is now 5 p.m. I'm so obsessed with this sweater. It's like so warm that I don't wear it very often. But right now when it's really, really cold, it is perfect. So yeah, today so far, I've basically just been reading The Hunger Games all day. I was gonna film some footage of me reading it, but I just got so sucked in that I couldn't put it down. I'm on page 195, so I'm like pretty much over halfway. I'm gonna set you down here again because my arm is getting tired. I kind of forgot how nerve-wracking these books are, and I almost wonder if like I just didn't find it as scary when I was younger for whatever reason as I do now, but like it's hitting really hard. Like the competition is really intense, specifically the scene where she has to go on stage before the games even start and basically like win people over and get them to like her. Like, she talks about being super nervous, and I was like trembling while reading. My public speaking fears are a little bit stronger now than they were when I was like in high school, maybe, for some reason. So that part specifically, also the fact that all these kids are so young and they're just like killing each other was, I mean, I probably found it disturbing when I was reading it back in the day. It's supposed to be disturbing, but I don't know, reading it and not being like, oh, these kids are like the same age as me, but being like, oh my god, these are literal actual children, is like kind of a different vibe, I think. I sort of experienced that when I watched the Songbirds and Snakes movie. Instead of being like, ooh, this is really intense, I was like, this is horrific and tragic. Genuinely so disturbing. And it is. These books are entertaining, but they're also like really genuinely so disturbing, and for some reason I didn't remember how disturbing they were for whatever reason. I'm on chapter 15. I forgot about the part where Peeta says that he has a crush on her, and then she gets really mad and shoves him into a vase and it breaks and injures him. I just still think it's funny that they're trying to force such a love triangle in these books. Or maybe it was us, like the fans, that were forcing the love triangle. I don't know. It's kind of interesting to think about. Like, I think these were really the first, like, actual young adult books that I read. It just started so much for me. Like, I started reading Divergent, the Maze Runner series, and, like, Maximum Ride. Although, I read Maximum Ride before these, I'm pretty sure. Also, partially the reason why I, like, did archery for a little while when I was younger, which is hilarious. Just thinking about how I used to wear my Mockingjay pin all the time, and I used to literally like braid my hair on one side like Katniss did and stuff. Like, I think it's kind of cute. This has been kind of a weird little check-in. I'll let you know again or keep you updated, but so far I'm enjoying it a lot. I might update you if I work on my crochet project a little bit. I've been making fingerless gloves, and by I've been making fingerless gloves, I mean I started making them like a month ago. Actually like almost finished the first one, and then it was the holidays and I got stressed out and I stopped because I didn't have time to finish it. I've made about this much, and if I wrap it around my hand, I'm gonna probably like fasten it up here and then leave a gap for my thumb, fasten it like at the wrist like that. I think I'm probably just gonna add one more row to this one, and then it'll be like a fingerless glove. It's been a couple days, but I have an update. I have finished Catching Fire, I meant to record any footage of it at all, but I was just actually having such a good time reading this that I wound up barely even having time to record. I finished this book in like 2 days, maybe like even a day and a half. I was so immersed in it, and I'm not surprised because I think I already said this, but I definitely remembered Catching Fire being my favorite of the series from when I did read them. So something that I thought was interesting about rereading Catching Fire specifically was that I forgot that like the actual games part doesn't even start until like after the halfway point of the book. Like most of this book is them dealing with the aftermath of the first book and how Katniss's actions are sort of leading into like the beginning of this rebellion against their government, and like how that is affecting them, how they're dealing with it, and also like the early stages of the rebellion in general. And it's very interesting. Like thinking back, I didn't really remember that being such a huge aspect of it, but it really is. I can more so understand Katniss's like grappling between her feelings of Peeta and Gale, because like she doesn't necessarily have romantic interest towards Gale, but she's known him forever, he knows her really well, and meanwhile she also feels bonded with Peeta, who they went through like a horrible traumatic thing together, and they have to like pretend to be, it's like a kind of like the fake dating trope, honestly. Like this is probably the first fake dating trope book that I actually read, which is kind of funny. Yeah, like I can really more so see how like she would kind of resent him for causing this situation where they have to pretend to be together, and how that would make her not want to be with him, but also how in some ways he's like the only person she actually feels close to because he understands like exactly what she went through. Meanwhile, she's known Gale for her whole life, but he doesn't understand everything she's been through, and like she can sort of see his perspective and how it would make him frustrated, but also like she knows that in some ways he's never going to understand what she's been through, and it's very interesting dynamic, especially because I was most like wary about the whole love triangle situation going into this. I remember being annoyed with it when I was like 13 and reading these. Something else that's really funny about this book is reading it and when they're introducing all of the past tributes, who are the past victors, and how they're like, oh, Finnick won 10 years ago when he was 14, which would make him 24 years old. I remember reading this when I was a kid, basically, and being like, he's so much older than them, and now I'm like, okay, I'm older than he is. He's also a baby. Like, everyone in this book is a baby. Except for, like, Haymitch and stuff, but I don't know. It's nice to reread a series that you remember loving and still love it. Like, I'm so glad I'm having this experience and I'm not like, oh my god, I can't believe I used to like this. Like, what the heck was I thinking? Because I was ready to perhaps have that experience. So I love how much of this book takes place in District 12 and is just like Katniss basically just processing everything that's happening and dealing with it. Yeah, Catching Fire is so good. Hopefully I will get some more footage of me actually reading Mockingjay. I know that I didn't really get much of me reading The Hunger Games or Catching Fire because I just flew through them so fast. This one is interesting to me because I remember this being my least favorite, but seeing as it deals with more like political type stuff than the other two books do, I kind of think I might come away with this one being my favorite, because the more political aspects of Catching Fire were what made it so interesting and good to me this time. So I don't know, I'm hoping that maybe I come away from it with Mockingjay being even better than I remembered it being. I don't know, that could be really awesome. It's gonna be another busy weekend, so I don't know how much time I'm gonna even have to read. And hopefully we can read some Mockingjay together, maybe tonight or tomorrow. Cool. Hey pals. I am kind of just figuring out this vloggy thing as I go, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit because I'm worried that this is gonna be a super disjointed video. It does not come naturally to me, but it is what I really enjoy watching and what I really want to make. Like, I love watching vlogs, cozy reading vlogs, cozy just vlogs in general, and I really want to get more comfortable making that kind of thing because I just find it so fun and I want to share a little slice of my life with y'all. I went to school for film, and even though my channel is still quite small, I like it being small because that kind of means I can experiment and do stuff that I want to do. I don't know, I've been so like busy, it feels like this last week, that like once I'm sitting and reading, I'm just like in the world, I'm sucked in, I'm not really thinking about it. And so I've been doing so much reading of those books and not a whole ton of updating you all on what has happened. So it is my weekend now. I'm hoping we can kind of wrap up this vlog with just some cozy weekend vibes. Oh, you're cute. We've got some things planned. I need to drop off some packages at the post office. I also have a little book haul. I went to a bookstore with some of my coworkers and it was really fun. I'd never been there before, but I want to show you the books that I got. And then I want to wrap up. I want to tell you my thoughts on the Mockingjay. I'd really love to finish my crochet project I've been working on. I really need to do laundry. I don't know if you're going to be there for that, but it needs to happen. Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to check in. I'll check in with you maybe once I've showered and gotten ready, and then I can give you my book haul. So I wanted to show you some of the books that I have recently obtained. So some of these are books that I got when I went to a used bookstore the other day with some friends from work, and then the other ones are books that I had ordered on thrift books that just came within the last couple days. So I'm very excited about them being here. And I wanted to talk about them, kind of lump them into one little book haul. Let's see. So the first book I want to talk about is The Labyrinth of Spirits by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. So this book is part of the, I want to say it's the Cemetery of Books. Cemetery of Forgotten Books is the name of the series. So I read the first book, The Shadow of the Wind, a few years ago, and it was so good. It's one of the books that really kick-started my reading journey again after finishing college and sort of getting back into books. And this is actually the fourth book in the series, but something that is really cool about this series is that you can read the books in any order. So the fourth one sounded the most interesting to me aside from the first one, so I decided that that is where I wanted to jump back in with the series. It's been a couple years since I read the first book and I really want to reread it, so that would be a good opportunity. I feel like so far this year, I have been really in a rereading things mood, which is kind of awesome. Like, I haven't done a lot of rereading in the past few years, so I'm excited to sort of be revisiting some books that I love. And yes, so The Labyrinth of Spirits, very excited about this. Then another one is Little Weirds by Jenny Slate. So this one is actually, I ordered this from thrift books and it looks like they sent me an ARC, because on the front it says coming in November 2019, and then on the back it says advanced reading copy, uncorrected proof, not for sale. So it is a used copy, but it looks like they sent me a used ARC, which is kind of cool. Like, I assume that it's pretty much the same. Yeah, I'm really excited to read this. This is an essay collection by Jenny Slate, and I've heard that it is just really, really good and relatable. I've read a couple quotes from it that really made me want to pick it up, and I'm also really obsessed with the art on the cover. So very excited about that. And then I also have The Element Encyclopedia of Fairies by Lucy Cooper. So I have been collecting these Element Encyclopedia books for a few years now. The first one I ever got was the Element Encyclopedia of Magical Creatures, and they're kind of just like encyclopedias. They go through into alphabetical order and kind of just like different entries on different creatures. This one is about fairies, and this book is weirdly hard to find. Throughout my collecting of the other books, I think I have maybe 4 or 5 of them now, This one is one of the hardest ones to come by, and I saw it on Thrift Books for like $12, which is a pretty good deal because normally I've seen it on eBay for like $40 for whatever reason. I don't know. I just think it's really cool. It talks about like fairy lore and fairy mythology and folklore from all around the world, and I'm so fascinated by that. I've always been super into fairies. I don't know, and look at this. It's got like little mushrooms on the side. This doesn't seem to me like a read it from cover to cover book, but it's definitely a book I'm excited to have as a part of my collection. Another book in the stack is All Our Hidden Gifts by Carolyn O'Donoghue. And this book I have had my eye on for a while. It's a young adult book that takes place in a high school about this girl who finds a deck of tarot cards at school. She uses this deck and one of her friends becomes cursed, or something along those lines. The main thing that drew me to this book was tarot cards. I love when books have tarot cards in them. And also, it seems like there's a character named Fiona in this book, which is really fun. I haven't read too many books with characters named Fiona. I think that this takes place in Ireland, or the author is Irish, or something like that. I'm excited to see how this goes. And then the other books are The Girl with All the Gifts by M.R. Carey, which is a zombie sci-fi book from what I know about it. This is a much larger physical book than I imagined it to be. I think I'd only ever seen people read like the mass market paperback version. But yeah, zombie thriller sci-fi kind of vibes, and that's pretty much all I know about it, but it was $3, so I picked it up and I'm really excited to read it. You can grab your food if you need to. Anyway, the last book I have to mention is The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. This is another book where I don't actually know very much what it's about. I mostly just flipped it open while in the bookstore. I really liked the writing style, so I decided that I wanted to read it. And I've heard about it some other places. I know it's a memoir that kind of follows Jeanette Walls, assumedly, and her family, I believe, growing up, and sort of some difficulties that they had within their family. That's pretty much all I know about it. I don't know a ton, so I'm excited to read it. I used to be very much a memoir kind of guy. I believe there was a year back before I sort of rediscovered my love of reading when I primarily read memoirs, which is kind of interesting because now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think I read any memoirs last year. Either way, very excited to read this. And one more thing that I wanted to mention is that I also found a DVD copy of Shrek for $2. That might not seem like a very cool thing to some of you, but I've been looking for a copy of Shrek in the wild for a very long time. I've owned the second Shrek movie probably ever since I moved out on my own, but I don't have a copy of the first Shrek movie. I know Shrek is a meme now, but I genuinely really love those movies, at least the first two. I know it's kind of a joke also because my name's Fiona, so people are always making Shrek jokes at me. Genuinely, the first Shrek was my favorite movie for a really long time when I was a kid, and I feel very nostalgic towards it. I think now I'm gonna go make some food, and I'm gonna go do something else. And I'll check in later. So I wanted to talk about the Mockingjay. I got my tea, and the lighting is bad because it's February and it's dark outside. I'm gonna see if I can talk and crochet at the same time. Speaking of which, this is my fingerless glove that I made. Yeah, my stitching isn't great, like sewing it together. I think you can see that it looks a little inconsistent, but these are just for me and I don't care. So I'm really excited. This is like the second project I've actually ever made, and I'll link the video that I used. I do not know how to do this well enough to actually explain it to people. This is the color I'm using for the other one because I'm not sure that I'm gonna have enough yarn in this color to do another full glove. So we're doing it like with this one, and it's gonna be cute, like mismatched vibe. And right now I'm just having fun. So that's what it's all about. The pressure to be good at stuff as soon as you start it is so real, and that's genuinely, like, that's something I really struggle with a lot. Like, for a good example, I didn't even start doing YouTube for a really long time because I was scared of not being good enough at it. But the thing is, like, how are you supposed to get good at something if you never practice it or you never start it? I think it made me a little nervous too because my bookshelf video did so well. I wasn't expecting that. Like, that really came out of nowhere. I was really, truly very proud of that video. It took me a long time to make it. I know that not every video I make is going to be as high of quality as that one was. That was a big project for me. I really just want to make stuff that I want to make and, like, have a nice time doing it. And hopefully there's someone out there that also wants to watch my stuff. Anyway, also look, I made my second row. I wanted to talk about Mockingjay, and here I am talking about YouTube and my feelings. I think I said that that one was my least favorite from back in the day. Not that I think it's bad by any means, but I think I do still prefer the other two books. Catching Fire will always be my number one. Catching Fire is really good. It's well paced. It's exciting. It has a lot more stuff of, like, Katniss on her own, learning to deal with the aftermath of everything that's happened, and I love that. And Mockingjay does deal a lot more with the rebellion and corrupt leaders and just survival and all that stuff, but in a different context from the other books. And I still really liked it, but I didn't think it was very well paced. I felt that a lot of the scenes of them in District 13 were repetitive. The first, like, third of the book, not a lot is happening. And I know that part of that is, like, meant to convey her frustration at not being able to do things and being out of control, not having control, I suppose is a better way to put it. It didn't do as good of a job as, like, hooking you and pulling you in. I think that's something that I see with a lot of, like, finale books, is that they're kind of like, okay, we've already pulled you in, you're already here to know what's gonna happen. They don't have to, like, keep you as engaged because they know you're gonna stay to the end. And there were a lot of things, like, I feel like once they did leave the district and things started happening, it was just going so fast. So much happened, so many deaths, and I don't think we really had enough time to, like, stop and think about those deaths. I think Katniss even says at one point, like, I can't think about this right now, I'm dealing with too much stuff and I just need to focus on getting us out of here, which is totally fair and valid. But I'm getting into big spoilers here, so if for some reason you haven't read this book, please fast forward, skip this part. I've already said a lot of spoilers, so I'm sure that everyone who's here is okay with spoilers. But especially with Finnick's death, they spent so much time building his character, showing what he'd gone through, and I don't think that his death was given as much time as it needed to process. It felt so sudden, and it didn't have the impact that I would have liked it to have on Katniss and in the story. It's, like, barely talked about. I think I was also confused because I remembered in the movie something about him sacrificing himself in order to save the rest of them. In the book, it's literally just like they're all running away from these mutts, the rabid dogs or lizards or something, and then he just dies. He just gets killed. She watches him die, and then she blows up the tunnel and he's gone. Something about that just rubbed me the wrong way. I also feel like, I know it's a young adult, and I know that young adult romance, whatever. So much of this book has emphasis on her being like, I don't really want to be in a relationship. I want to live for myself. I'm thinking about survival. Like, she doesn't have time for that. She doesn't care about it. And maybe she has feelings for Gale or she has feelings for Peeta, but she, like, says out loud multiple times that she does not want that to be the emphasis of her story. But genuinely, like, I don't think she should have ended up with Peeta or Gale. Something that I really don't like in books and real life, because I've had it happen to me too, where, like, you're friends with a guy, he develops feelings for you, and because you're friends, he thinks that it's just gonna happen. He has some claim to you or something. And that's the vibe that Gale gives to me. So personally, I do not really like Gale for her in that way. I can't believe I'm talking about Peeta and Gale in 2024. Gale should not be entitled to Katniss just because they were friends. in the same way that Peeta should not be entitled to Katniss just because they went through a traumatic experience together. This felt much more prevalent to me in Mockingjay than it did in the other 2 books, and I think a big part of that is because Katniss wasn't doing as much. She wasn't as active. She had a lot of time on her hands to think about these things, so it was a lot more prevalent in Mockingjay, and I think that is a contributing factor to why I didn't enjoy this one as much, even though I am technically more of a fan of Katniss with Peeta than I am of Katniss with Gale. I'm still not a fan of the way they rushed the ending with that. I don't like that the end of the book was basically just them being like, and then we had a long time to get to know each other again, and we wound up being in a romantic relationship, and then we had kids. It just wasn't a satisfying ending to me. But again, I know this is fiction. I know this is young adult fiction from the early 2010s. So clearly I'm imposing my 2020s logic onto this book that just is in no way able to hold this up. I still don't think it's a bad book. Just in comparison to the other 2, it's my least favorite of the 3. The main reasons for that are pacing, and I wish that it had dealt with the harder themes a little bit better. I also think, like, the first book, for example, handled Rue's death in a very interesting way, and you could really see the impact that that had on Katniss, whereas in the Mockingjay, Prim's death was described as being very impactful for Katniss, but we don't see that as much. And I think part of that is because there's just so much happening at the end of this book. They're trying to cram so many things in. I just really wish that we could have seen those ending events spread out more throughout the book, so we really could have seen the impact on Katniss and her development as a character, because the other books did do that. So I think this was just trying to do a whole lot of stuff, and a lot of it did well, and a lot of it I personally wish that it could have been done slightly better. I have to go get my laundry in a second, and then I'll come back. Yeah, so Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I'm gonna start it, and then I'll be done. I'll have completed it, and hopefully I'll get some actual footage of me reading this one for you. Rest of the day, I'm gonna finish crocheting, I'm gonna do some more laundry, maybe watch a movie. That could be fun. So it's been a few days. I've been reading The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I'm not quite halfway yet. I'm like on page 213. The actual Hunger Games just started. This is an interesting one because it is the only one that I have read after seeing the movie. All the other ones I read and the movie came out like a couple years later, honestly. I liked the movie a lot, like I thought it was good. I thought the pacing was a little weird, but the book is giving so much more background into why Snow is acting the way that he does. Like in the movie, you almost kind of feel bad for him and you feel like you like almost feel like maybe he's not gonna be a bad guy, like maybe he's fine. You get a lot more insight into his motives, and like usually it's a selfish reason. And sometimes like it even says like he knows he should feel good for her, but he feels jealous and like he wants to be in the spotlight and all that stuff. My book is peeling. Oh, that's weird. Look at that. It's like shiny underneath. That's what's happening. It's good so far. I love Lucy Gray. She's great. Something that's really interesting about this book to me so far is a lot of the last names are similar to the last names of people in the Hunger Games series. So you kind of get to see like, oh, that's probably like this character's dad or something. It's so good to reread a series and have it be good, and then also to read the prequel and have it be good. Like, maybe I've just had bad luck with series, but that doesn't feel like it's an everyday kind of thing to me. So, yeah. welcome back to dramatic lighting. At least there's light. I mean, it's been like 4 or 5 days since you last saw me. We're definitely going for a no plot, just vibes with this one. Otis is gonna cry because I'm out of his line of sight. I finally finished The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which was really good. I have some thoughts, but I'm gonna share them with you later in a more concise way because my dad is like on his way to pick me up right now. Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I'd say is like a 4.5, 4.75 for me. So definitely up there in my ranking of like Hunger Games books. I'd say this is pretty far up there. This book is... Okay, here. Baba, he does this. Honey, why you scream? I love you. Hey, you're so good, baby. He just wants to be near me. Possibly the most important update of all is that I finally have Gloria here in my hands. I'm not really like a squishmallow collector. I just have a few very specific ones that I see and I'm like, I need that specific squishmallow. Which is hard because some of them apparently are very highly coveted by squishmallow collectors. And apparently Gloria here is one of those, and she is no longer available for purchase like in stores. So, you know what? Let me tell you the story while I'm doing my laundry because I'm scared I'm gonna run out of time. I ordered a Gloria squishmallow off of Depop in like last April, so like almost a full year ago. It got lost in the mail. It got stuck at the post office, and even though this person shipped it, I never got it. I never received it. They had to refund me for it. A month after that, I found another person that was selling one on Depop that wasn't like $80 because people on Depop are unhinged, and I ordered that one. And that one, the seller just never shipped to me. All of this to say, it has been a very long time coming that I have been wanting this squishmallow. Because I tend to hyperfixate on things, when I have like an expectation of something happening and then it doesn't happen, I cannot let go of that. Like, for there to be an expectation of, I ordered this thing, it is going to come in the mail, I'm going to have it. That happens once, I don't get it. Immediately I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna order another one because I thought I was gonna have it and now I don't have it and I want it still. And then I order it again, and it never arrives. 2 times now. The expectation of, I've ordered an item, it's going to arrive in the mail, it never arrives in the mail, and I am sad, and I want it still. But I was so fed up that I just gave up on it. I was like, okay, whatever, like, stupid freaking frog, I don't need it anymore. I'm mad at this frog now. No offense, Gloria, but eventually, I guess last week or so, I ordered this frog. I'm so excited to finally have it. Literally, I've been wanting this freaking frog for so long. I love frogs a lot, and I'm so excited that I finally have her. Okay, I can't focus on doing this and doing the laundry at the same time. I simply cannot focus that many things at once. I will just get distracted and... Ooh! I'm gonna go get another bag to put laundry in, and I'm gonna go. Perhaps I'll check in with you later. I have a book haul that I really want to show you. So, yeah, I'll check back in. Bye! Hello! Okay, so it's been quite a while. I think it's been about a month since the last clip that you saw of me. And that is because I've had a lot going on. At this time, the video has been done, completely edited for at least 3 weeks, except for this last clip that I'm filming right now, because I, maybe 2 days after the last clip that you saw of me, wound up getting sick. I was sick for like a week. I did not feel good enough to film. A week after that, I finished at my current job and started a new job, which is kind of funny because in the time after like the second clip that you see of me talking was right before I had my job interview for this job, and now I work here. So that's cool. I'm very excited to not be working retail anymore and to actually be working in a library, which is like my actual dream job. I'm so excited. So I'm not technically gonna be a librarian. I'm working in a library. It's the entry-level position. Books are my favorite thing, and it's cool to get to do it for my job. Needless to say, it has been very busy, and I have not had a free day where I haven't had work or a training or just time spent with friends and family since I was homesick, probably. It's been a lot, and honestly, I'm tired. I want to have some time to adjust to my new work schedule, but also I really, really want to finish this video. Not so much excuses, just like an explanation. Daylight savings has happened, and I think that's the only reason why I'm not curled up in a ball from exhaustion, is because I'm like actually getting a teeny tiny shred of sunlight. Also because with my new schedule, I should be able to film and upload a lot more frequently because I will have more time to edit. I won't just be trying to squeeze it in on my weekends. I'll actually be able to film on days that I work. So I'm really, really excited about that. I think that this new work schedule is gonna end up being really great for what I wanna do with this channel also, which is so exciting. Since I owe you an update, I did finish my fingerless gloves. I have the burgundy one and the green one. And you can definitely tell that the burgundy one is a lot more, it looks a lot better than this one, but that's because this was my first one. And by the time I made this one, I had the technique down quite a bit. So yeah, I'm really excited about this. I haven't really done much else in terms of crocheting, but I did crochet a tiny leaf for my headphones. So now when I wear my headphones, I can look like a little Pikmin, and it makes me very happy. I also mentioned in a previous clip that I had some books that I recently hauled that I wanted to show off, and I just want to say that I am going to be doing that in a separate video. It will be coming to you soon. I also have planned a beginning of the year wrap-up, which will be my January through March books that I read so far this year. So yeah, that'll be coming to you soon. Let's finish this up, shall we? Something else I wanted to mention really briefly is that I didn't intend for this video to be a discussion or an analysis about the Hunger Games series. I just kind of wanted to share my personal feelings as I was rereading it, though there are, I think, a lot of great points for discussion in this book series. I'm not going to go super in-depth into any of those. I am going to link a couple of videos that I have recently watched and really enjoyed about the Hunger Games series and about the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes specifically, because I think that it's really important things to consider. This was intended to be a vlog, not a discussion, so I don't have a ton of time to go into as much depth as I think these points deserve. So I just wanted to have a quick disclaimer that I am going to mention a couple things, but I'm not going to go super into depth on those. So let's talk about the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. First of all, I need to mention that this book continued to peel. I've had my Hunger Games books for 10 years. I've had this book for a couple of months, and it's like a giant chunk. It looks like somebody took a bite out of the spine. Resisting the urge to just peel this entire thing off of this book, it was a lot for me while reading it. That's not a review, but it did contribute to my personal experience. There's a lot to talk about with this book specifically, and I'm also probably going to end up comparing the book to the movie because I saw the movie first. It was hard for me to read this and not draw comparisons to the movie. The first thing that really popped out to me was how this book is fully told in Coriolanus's perspective. Very bold choice of Suzanne Collins to name her protagonist Coriolanus. Not a choice I necessarily would have made, but he is an asshole. So I think that because the book was told only in his perspective, and because we got his internal monologue, it really gave you more context for his actions, and also I feel like you were able to see his actual corruption happening more clearly than you were in the movie. I think that the movie did make him appear a bit more sympathetic than the book did, because you couldn't hear his internal monologue. He seemed more like he cared. He seemed less selfish, or maybe like he was genuinely trying to help Lucy Gray in the movie. But in the book, like, every time he helps someone, his internal monologue is like, oh yeah, I helped them because I knew that it would give me an advantage. Ooh, how can I manipulate this situation to get ahead of everyone else? And how can I throw these people under the bus in order to save myself? It makes it very clear that the reason why he does things is not out of any reason other than self-preservation and wanting to win, basically. I really think that in the book, it is much more clear how many opportunities he had to redeem himself, and yet every single time he chose to not. So since we only have his perspective, another thing that was kind of interesting is when they're showing the games themselves, it's just from his perspective of him sitting in a room watching the games. So when Lucy Gray isn't on the screen, like actively in the arena, he can't see her, he doesn't know what she's doing. Later, she's able to tell him what happened, but we don't see any of the Hunger Games from her perspective. We only see them from his perspective. And I personally thought that this was a very big juxtaposition from the other Hunger Games books. At least the first Hunger Games was very much about the survival aspect of it. And in this book, it was very much about how the Capitol perceives it and how that kind of entertainment and media is consumed. Having that distance between him and the games in this book felt so different to Katniss being on the ground, like in the games. To me, it feels like Suzanne Collins was maybe trying to create this feeling of like you can really notice the difference between the people of the districts and how they engage with the Hunger Games and the people of the Capitol, and how the way they engage with the Hunger Games is very distanced even when they are right there. And even when his future is directly tied in with it, I don't know, like those chapters were like sometimes a little bit boring because not a whole lot was happening, but it kind of felt like that was the point. Like for him, even though his future is very dependent on it, it is not truly life or death. I don't know if that's what she was doing intentionally, but that's kind of how it felt to me. But I do think that the movie did a really good job including Lucy Gray's perspective. Like obviously for being a film, like they had to make it more entertaining, and so I understand why they cut back and forth between him on the outside just watching and her on the inside fully experiencing everything that was happening. It makes sense that they would need to make it flow better in a film format. I also recently learned that almost that entire movie was filmed on actual sets and they didn't do green screen, which makes me really happy, but that's a whole separate topic. Again, I'm getting into too many different things here. Yeah, I think that my first impression of the movie was that I liked it, but I felt that the pacing was a little off. I think with the movie, like especially leading up to the ending, it feels so much more abrupt, whereas in the book, again, because you get to see his perspective, it really feels like a slow descent of him just getting like more and more corrupt. I did feel like the pacing, it was a little funky. Like the third act did drag a bit, mostly because he was just in the districts and not a ton was happening. But I'm okay with that. I don't mind slow stuff. I really liked how there would be some characters that kind of name dropped from the Hunger Games books. It was fun to see the connection to like the different characters. Also, Tigress, who is Snow's cousin, was the same Tigress that helped Katniss out in the costume shop during the end of Mockingjay. I didn't realize that was the same person. I remembered them individually, but I didn't fully connect it, and so that was interesting. I also think it's interesting how Suzanne Collins mentions in the book that all of the footage from the 10th Hunger Games was deleted, so like no record of this exists, and like in Katniss's time, you would think that having Katniss as a victor from District 12, people would be like, oh, just like the other time we had a victor from District 12, but no. I really liked the inclusion of the music, having the songs written out in the book, and then being able to go and listen to the soundtrack on Spotify while looking at the lyrics was really cool and fun. I think the differences between this book and the other 3 books in the series are one of the things that make it the most interesting, because it's written in a very different way. It's about a character who we all know and hate, and for a really long time I was put off from reading this book because I was like, ew, I don't want to read about President Snow. I hate that guy, and why would I ever want to read about him? But it's interesting. But yeah, final thoughts of the whole experience. I mean, I enjoyed the series. I had a fun time. Do I slightly regret talking about the love triangle so much? I don't know, not really. All in all, I just wanted to film me having a fun time rereading a series that I used to love from when I was younger, and I hope that you enjoyed it as well. It's been a long time filming, and I'm honestly really excited to work on some other stuff, and this has been my first vlog, so I hope that you like it. I put a lot of work into it. I know it's not perfect, but again, we're not striving for perfection. We're figuring it out. We're having a good time. We're doing our best. That's really what matters. So, I hope that you have a wonderful day. If you would like to leave me a comment of any kind, preferably nice, but a hate comment still counts as a comment, so I mean, you know. Let me know in the comments what series you think I should read next, because I was thinking maybe Divergent or the Maze Runner series. Divergent is a particularly controversial series, although I'm not sure why. I think most people just don't like it. You'll see more from me soon, and thank you for your patience. If you want to like or subscribe, or both, if you're feeling it, go ahead. Thank you so much for watching if you made it this far. Bye!